Sorry, I still don't feel well, but I wanted to respond to this because I think it's a very important conversation to have. Specifically, it's the ending of what you're saying, that it's hard to make legitimate friendships with people who basically lack the ability or the empathy or the care to notice these issues. A few years ago, I got into, let's call it an argument or a disagreement with a friend. And it was in a conversation specifically after they found some grave sites at schools here in Canada. And which schools I'm referring to is specifically residential schools. And these were the bodies of Indigenous children. And I believe the conversation occurred after the death of Queen E of England. And it kind of just got a whole bunch of conversations going. And in that conversation, I got extremely upset because there was this like very subtle taste of two-siding it that was going on. Like there's both sides to the situation. And back then, in my frustration with her, I said something along the lines of, if you can justify what happened to those kids, because indirectly it was a conversation about Queenie and the residential schools and all that jazz. And basically, I said something along the lines of, if you can justify this happening to those kids, then there is no way in hell I could ever expect you to be a safe person for my children to be around, because you're not. And the fact is, I gave her another chance, and then came out the Zionist views that she had, and the overt distribution of propaganda like that of the 40 unheaded babies. And so, as a parent of racialized children who knows what other parents are capable of when it comes to disregarding the safety and dangers to the bodies of racialized children, I never self-gaslit ever again. Like, that person is strictly cut off from my life. And anybody who shares that view is now strictly cut off from my life, sorry. Because the fact is, indifference to violence is an act of violence. The unwillingness to bear witness of the violence that you benefit and privilege from is an act of violence. And as a result, I've concluded that I simply do not associate with those people, and I cut them off. And not nicely. Because at some point, I have the responsibility as the parent of two racialized bodies, as the daughter of stolen people on stolen land. I have a responsibility to validate myself and to preserve myself and my collective and those I'm responsible for. And so at this point, not only do I not keep any friendships or connections to anybody who lack the empathy and humanity to behave like human beings in the face of horrific injustice and violence, I don't even acknowledge them as human beings at this point. Because the fact is, there is a distinct disregard of our own humanity in what they are doing. So as a 41-year-old, I no longer obligate myself to feel pressured to perform any form of dignity or respect or even kindness to those people who literally would do nothing at the sight of the extermination of my kids. I think we have a self-preservation right, and I think it keeps our dignity and our self-respect intact, because they don't care the level of moral effort that we have to do to bend the reality in order to legitimize their own humanity at the expense of our humanity. I don't think there's anything wrong with your point of view. I think you're fully justified.